In this conversation about maternal and reproductive health, why is the S so silent? How is it that we're taking, and we're often complicit in taking, sex out of reproduction? What has sex got to do with it? I'm delighted to introduce Jessica Biel, actress and activist.
Long walk.
Oh my God!
Oh, how are you?
What are you doing?
Well,
I just can't believe it.
Me either. I mean, I'm clearly here to talk about vaginas, obviously. So, I'm sitting. We're sitting. You're coming.
We're sitting. I'm coming.
Okay. Hello. Well, we like to improvise around here.
Why are you here?
Well, I mean,
Why?
I'm here because this is an incredibly important issue. Obviously, women and girls' reproductive health around the world, but in the States, you know, this is something that we don't really talk about very much, that we are not really, you're not really doing anything there for this issue, and it's super
Jessica,
important to me.
You've got everything going for you. I mean, well, I know you're envious of me and my sartorial grace.
I am.
But on the other hand, you're Jessica Biel. Why on earth would you have any issue at all?
Well, I have an issue because I don't understand what's happening in my own body. I don't know how anybody else feels about this, but when I decided I wanted to become pregnant, I had no idea what it meant and how it actually would work, and the cycle and my period, and I had no clue. And I luckily didn't have an issue, but I was asking my friends all of these questions about my body and are they experiencing the same thing, and nobody had a clue. Nobody knew.
But Jessica, that's private business.
It is, it's very shameful, isn't it? And that's the problem. Why is it so shameful? I feel completely embarrassed talking about this stuff, even with my gynecologist, and why is that? It makes no sense. So I am here because I want to pull the stigmas off female reproductive everything. This should not be shameful. This should be funny. It should be open. We should be able to talk to our husbands, our fathers, our girlfriends, everything about this. We're just human beings all experiencing the same thing.
I think that's worthy of a fantastic
That's just my opinion.
celebration. Is there a challenge that you would like to put to us and a commitment that you will make to us?
Well, the commitment that I'm making with my partners, Women Care Global, is that we are going to continue to be outputting disruptive, provocative, funny, self-deprecating content. We are going to be all over social media and all over the internet with that, talking about these things, talking about stuff that nobody wants to talk about or that you feel embarrassed to talk about. I'm going to continue to do that way more in my own personal life and on social media. And I guess what I want to ask everyone is to, you know, get educated. That's what we want to do here. It's education is what's going to give every woman and girl all over the world an option to make the right decision for themselves about their own bodies and when and if they want to have a family, so they don't have to do it too soon. And that's what I want, is get educated. Please watch our videos, make your own videos, talk about it. Just open up the lines of communication and dialogue, and let's laugh about this crazy stuff that happens to our bodies on a monthly basis.
Thank you so very much. The wonderful, extraordinary example of Jessica Biel. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks,
That was
Kate.
gorgeous.
Do I take this back with me? Yeah, we're going to take this one out.
Right?
Just drag it. Oh my God.
That didn't work. Thank you so very much. Extraordinary.
Hello and welcome. I'm Andrea Sankey, and we're at the Women Deliver Conference in Copenhagen, where thousands of people have gathered to discuss how to best improve the welfare of women and girls around the world. And in the studio, I have with me the brains behind a bold new initiative tackling taboos such as sex, menstruation, and teenage pregnancy. To my right, actress and philanthropist Jessica Biel, and also with us, Woman Care Global founder Sandra Pelletier. Thanks both so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jessica, we don't have degrees in biology, but we both had solid, liberal American educations. Yet you discovered pretty recently how much you really didn't know about your own kind of anatomy and your own body. How did that happen?
That's absolutely accurate. I was excited to start my own family, and I started to ask questions to my girlfriends and things that I didn't quite know about my own body and my cycle and all of these different things. And I realized not only did I not know anything, but none of my also very liberal, educated, American educated friends didn't either. And it was such a shock to me, and I felt so kind of ashamed and embarrassed about this fact that I really did not understand. And no one had really taken the time to talk to me about it and explain what it is that actually happens to your body. And I realized, wow, there's a gap here that we're missing.
Right.
And I'm the product of that. And I think a lot of other women in the United States are probably experiencing the same thing. And that's sort of how Sandra and I got connected, because Women Care Global is working all over the world. And we started talking about, of course, these universal global issues, and then we started talking about how much of a problem it is at home as well.
Right.
Yeah.
So Sandra, if well-educated American women don't know what they need to about their bodies and their health, how bad is it in the rest of the world?
Well, I have to be honest, it's incredibly bad. I mean, you have to look, 225 million women still have an unmet need for contraception, and half of all pregnancies are unplanned all over the world. But what was shocking is that when you look all over the world, girls and women are the same when it comes to not understanding their bodies. And when Jessica and I started talking to say, look, education is really the key, but how are we going to do it in a way that will open up the ears of girls? You know, how can we capture them at the right moments when they can really make different choices throughout their whole life? And that's why we decided to choose humor and provocative humor on purpose.
And tell us how you went about that. Choosing humor to educate women and girls.
I mean, I think it was a very natural, organic process, because we don't just want to reach young women, we want to reach men, we want to reach young boys, we want to talk to everybody, we want this conversation to be open. So how do we talk about it amongst ourselves? We're laughing at how silly it is that we don't know all these things, or how embarrassed we feel about, I don't know, whatever it is that happened to you that day. And the way that you feel confident is to laugh at it, and is to, really kind of bring it down to earth and say, hey, this happens to me too. Does it happen to you? Let's talk about it. Let's laugh about it. Let's take away the stigma, take away the myths, the miseducation, the misinterpretations of all these things that we think we know.
And humor really does break down the barriers.
It does.
And you started, the campaign is called If You Don't Tell Them, Who Will? What's the response been?
Well, I can tell you, it has been so overwhelmingly positive from women and men and girls and educators. So people have written in with questions. They've told the most intimate personal stories. They've told humorous stories. But what we have found is that people want more. They still want more, and they want more of everything that, privately we talk about and we have fears about. But so far, knock on wood, even people that we thought would perceive this maybe in a negative way have said, you know what, it's time. We need to start talking about these things, and being provocative, being provocateurs, people have responded really well.
Yeah.
And what I find so funny is, even for Americans who'll blurt out even the most personal details of their lives in a room full of strangers, happily, the issue of menstruation, which is one issue you really do tackle, people still find it embarrassing. Tell us how important it is to break the taboos on that issue, not just in the United States, but especially in developing countries.
So when girls they start their menstruation, it's keeping them out of school. And when they're out of school, they're susceptible to have vulnerable things happen to them that change their life terribly for the worse. And so what really is the issue is that when we look all over the world, we want to be able to say, look, no topic should be off limits, that menstruation is a natural part of a girl's development. And we really want to be able to say, look, let's really be forceful and direct, but we want to give accurate information through humor. So it's not just about being so funny and let's laugh about it. Let's be funny, but let's make sure we cut to the chase and say, here's naturally what's going on in your body. It's okay. Don't be ashamed. We really want to stop the shame is really our underlying goal and our platform. So, because when girls are confident, they can change the world.
And now, Jessica, have you been able to travel a little bit to see how women and girls respond outside the U.S.?
I haven't been able to do that as much as I would have liked, but I'm hoping that that's maybe one of our next steps. We've just recently partnered together to work on this campaign, and we're currently talking about the next step for us and the content that we want to put out there, and that I think would be the next step for us as well, is to let's get outside of the States. And really, I guess that's why we're here too. This is way outside of our comfort zone in terms of being at home, and we're coming into contact with people from all over the world. As we know, 169 countries are represented here, and I would say this has been our first actual real moment of showing and sharing our campaign and seeing how people have responded. And I was nervous because you're right, Americans kind of just say anything and everything.
We have no shame.
It's true.
And yet we somehow do when it comes to this subject.
That's why I
very
brought up
interesting.
the Think Abroad, because I would love to see how your Funny or Die series could be translated into foreign languages. That would be amazing.
Well,
it's
cool.
really interesting.
The Women
I love that
Deliver
idea.
Platform, though, brings, because it's so global, we actually use the video in a couple of our sessions here.
We did show it.
And the reaction, we held our breath. And you can't believe it. Men and women, they were cheering us on to say, do more of this all over the world.
That's fantastic. Sandra, I'm going to let you have the last word. Sandra and Jessica both, thanks so much for joining us. And thanks to our viewers as well. That's all from me, Andrea Sankey, at the Women Deliver 2016 conference. Remember, you can tweet your comments and questions about this and our other shows using the hashtag WDLive. Bye-bye.